Tell me something silly. Go ahead and lie to me before it's over. Lie to me. I got all day.
I was ashamed when I realized that life was a costume party, and I attended with my real face.
Tavares, right in the butt?
What?
No.
Less than a minute now.
Tool time for 200.
This term for a long-handled gardening tool can also mean an immoral pleasure seeker. Ken?
What's a hoe?
No.
She has a very long back.
Taylor Swift.
Hey, throw that motherfucker. Throw that motherfucker. Hey, throw that motherfucker. Throw that motherfucker. Throw that motherfucker.
Hey guys, this is my girlfriend Becca. She has cancer, but I love her. Ugh! You can't find no black bitch with cancer? Girl, I know, right? With his weak ass.
I'm into older looking women, you know? Yeah, I'm into older looking women. I mostly date white women in their 20s.
Unreasonable expectations. Why do humans place unreasonable expectations on each other? What do I mean? As an example, we know that all humans are non-monogamous. Why do we place this unreasonable expectation of monogamy on each other? You know, when people get married, they say those silly ass vows and they say something like to have and to hold. Why place that unreasonable expectation on that person, knowing that you are non-monogamous and that person has been non-monogamous? Why place that unnecessary expectation on each other? It's just unreasonable. We all hoes at the end of the day.
I'm not sorry for what I'm about to do.
What are you doing?
Damn garbage. Garbitch.
What's going on, everybody? It's Monk Dan back with another stream. Let's go, man. How y'all doing out there? What's going on? If you are new to the channel, I appreciate you for being here. I ask that you hit the like button, send me some comments, and you subscribe if you have not done so. What I do on my channel is simply, I like to seek and share wisdom through philosophy. And I do that through reading books and maybe some videos in the future. But for now, I just like to read books and share wisdom through philosophy. Alrighty, here we are. Today, we are still on Bad Girls, Outlaw Women of the American West by Michael Rutter. I like this chapter. This is chapter 3. We are going to talk about Calamity Jane. I like this story, and I like this story because it has some familiar areas, if you will. If you guys did not know, I had moved from northern Wyoming to Washington State, so some of the areas I'm very familiar with, and it was good to I guess, you know, just think about those areas that I would be in. So anyway, we'll get into it. So Calamity Jane, I don't want to call her a bad girl in this time. She's different from the first 2 chapters. She has her flaws, but calling her a bad girl, I don't know if I want to do that. But I do want to ask this question: what's holding you back from success? And what we'll find out is what held back Calamity Jane. All right, so here's a little bit about a background of Calamity Jane. Her real name is Martha Jane, and she grew up in a family. Let's see, she was born May 1st, 1852 in Princeton, Missouri. She had a mother and a father, and I want to say she was the oldest of siblings. Let me just go back here just for a quick second. I don't know where it was, but she was. Oh, here it is. Um, it it probably does say, I can't remember, but she did. She had siblings, and I want to say she was the oldest. But she grew up a tomboy, is how they described her. But she had a lot of responsibility as a kid. Her father moved them around for financial reasons to survive in his times. But she would often, and I highlighted this part right here. This says, just after the Civil War, her father got Western fever, so he packed up his family and headed to Montana. Martha Jane helped drive the wagon and shot game for the pot because her father was often drunk. She also learned how to use a black snake or a bullwhip as she urged the weary team along the trail. I like how they use the word team, but it was her family. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So here you go. You had Martha Jane, now Calamity Jane. She grows up in I guess you could say, impoverished background because she didn't have any wealth. Her father, as I just read, he was sick, moved the family to Montana, and he was just moving them to different places. Eventually, he went to Salt Lake City. Her mother died before the father. Then that's when the father moved to Salt Lake City, and then that's when he passed. And then she tried to take on taking the responsibility of helping out her siblings, and it was just overbearing. She couldn't do it, and so she put her brothers and sisters or siblings in a foster care or orphanage or whatever it was because she couldn't do it. So she traveled around back into the Montana area and South Dakota, and this is where it gets really good. So I'll read a bit of this. It says. I'll just read the small paragraph. It's not too long. It says, in 1875, she tried to accompany the Dodge expedition, which was headed by the Black Hills. Black Hills. Shout out to the Black Hills to look for gold. And just a quick note, the Black Hills, if I remember correctly, the Black Hills, because it kind of, so I lived in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is northern Wyoming, kind of close to the Montana border, not too far from the Montana south border. But if you go east Wyoming past Gillette, there's some small towns. I believe it's Sun. Please don't. My Wyoming folks like, bro, what you talking about? It's Sun something. Once you pass Gillette, there's some more towns, Moorcroft. There's some more towns, and then there's like a Sun. I forgot the city name. You'll pass up the Devil's Tower, and I never went to the Devil's Tower, by the way. Anyway, you'll pass up that, but once you get close to, I guess once you get out of Wyoming, you're in South Dakota, and you start to get into the Black Hills. It's a really beautiful area. That area right there is very beautiful. So shout out to the Black Hills. That's why I wanted to get out. And I never went to South Dakota State University, I believe. I always wanted to go to their games, and I never went to go see it. Shout out to Spearfish, South Dakota, man. It's a beautiful area right there. But anyway, it says she attempted to find employment as a mule skinner for the group. However, her gender soon came to attention of the authorities, and she was sent home. So here she is. She's trying to find work, and it's just not working for her, man. You know, they say she can't do it because of her gender, which she had already been doing these things with her father when they moved from Missouri to Montana. And then it says, in the spring of 1876, she accompanied Major General George Crook's expedition in Montana, probably as a camp follower or a mule skinner, not as a scout as the later claimed. Which here it is. So she's probably a camp follower or a mule skinner. But then the previous sentence, it says she was looking for that experience but they didn't give it to her because she was a woman. So, that was pretty tough right there, man. This is why I was like, I don't want to call her bad, but is she a product of her environment or circumstances? We'll find out. And maybe we can talk about that. And then it says, after leaving Montana a few months later, she found herself in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Shout out to Cheyenne, where she worked as a hog ranch. And I'll explain what a hog ranch is. It says the lowest of whorehouses, and spent time in jail for stealing clothes. So I'm saying all this to say, to kind of give a background, give a sense of who she is. So she's moving around, she's looking for employment, and uh, it seems like the way that she's getting by is through prostitution, or excuse me, YouTube. She's getting by through having to sell her body, and she did try earnest work in terms of a mule skinner. Didn't work. Shout out to Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's a military base there at Warren Air Force Base. Shout out to them. So that was a very military post, and the hog ranch is basically it's a spot, or however you want to call it. It's a environment where soldiers, military people, whatever, would have their time to drink and, just party and fornicate with prostitutes and all that good stuff like that. So I'm saying all this to give a kind of background of who Calamity Jane is. And I have to say, unlike the first 1 and 2 chapters, she's not deleting anybody. She's actually trying to make some sort of living for herself. So I'm like, wow. Why am I highlighting this story? Is because although she has a lot against her, she has some great things for her, which is not just her body, and is that she is a good storyteller. Like, she likes to lie. In this instance, when she lies, people gravitate to her. And what type of people? Publicist, magazine, what was it? Journalist, those type of people. The media loved hearing her stories. And she lied about a lot of the stuff. But here's the thing about her. Although people listen to her and they give her the platform they prop her up, like, wow, like they started writing novels and magazines and all this. They doing all these good things for her. So now she's getting propped up. But the dilemma is she kind of, I don't want to say failed. Well, in a sense, she did fail under pressure. What do I mean by that? What's holding you back from success? What held Calamity Jane or Martha Jane from success was alcohol. It wasn't the prostitution. The prostitution and the elaborate stories, the extravagant stories that she told. People love that. They love that about her. They were fascinated by her. They loved that about her. She would talk and, she would talk like the fellas and drink, smoke, all that, whatever the case, man. I don't want to say smoke, but she would get down and dirty with the guys. And people loved that. And she would accompany great people. Major General George Crook. I don't know who that is, but they name dropped a lot of important names, like Colonel Custer. And I have to stop for a quick second. So, like I said, I lived in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is northern Wyoming, and I was a railroader. And one of the places that of course, I was a railroader, so we would go through Sheridan, Wyoming, up to Montana, all the way to Billings, and all the way through Laurel, and then we would also go through Montana east. It depends on where we drop the train off, but we would go as far as to Bighorn, Montana. And I'm saying all that to say is that I would always hear my fellow railroaders talk about General Custer. Man, the Custer battle, the Custer. So when I read this, I was like, wow, it just kind of brings back memory, man. I wasn't ready to leave just yet, but life said, yo, you gotta go. So, but yeah, I would always hear about General Custer, and and they talked about it in there. Here's the one thing it says: when the group rode into Deadwood, shout out to Deadwood, South Dakota, It says the town cheered them. Lieutenant Colonel Custer had just been wiped out by the Battle of the Little Bighorn. So General Custer, I'm not a historian, but this is the story that the guys would always tell me, man. So General Custer, he lost the battle against the natives or Indians, as some people would say. And Yeah, man. So the guys would always, man, you gotta go see Custer, and they would do these reenactments. I never saw the reenactments, but they would have these reenactments of the battle and everything. So shout out to, man, Pompey's Pillar. Shout out to those guys, man. It's just memories reading this stuff. But anyway, man. So Calamity Jane would have these connections, man. So although she has this rough life, meaning she's a drunkard, man. I mean, this lady was getting drunk, but people would love to hear the stories that she would tell. But she couldn't handle the pressure in terms of success. Like, okay, here it is. And where's the part? They were saying in the writings, there was like, people gave you the platform to exceed and excel. All they just wanted you to do is slow down on the drinking. And she just couldn't do it. She just could not do it, man. And then there was another gift that life gave her was the ability to dance. For some odd reason, this lady here, and she's not the most attractive person. Look at her, boy. Oh my gosh. She is not attractive at all. And here's another picture of her. Here's another picture of her right here. Two pictures right there. She is not attractive, but life gave her the ability to. My light kind of did something there. Life gave her the ability to dance, and so they were saying at this time, for some odd reason, if you were able to dance, you were able to make a lot of money dancing. And I don't know what type of dancing it was. They didn't really talk about the dancing aspect of it, but I'll read a little bit of right here. It says, one thing many don't know about this fascinating woman is that she was an excellent dancer. She occasionally worked as a dance hall girl, charging by the dance. A good dancer made far more than a prostitute or prostitutes, most prostitutes. She enjoyed trying to give a living she enjoyed trying to make a living as a dancer. However, before long, she would get sloppy drunk and was fired. It was like, what's holding you back? For Calamity Jane, it was drinking, alcohol. That was her downfall. Here's another part that I highlighted. It says, frankly, Jane was not the kind of girl the womanizing Wild Bill would be had loved twice at useless. Excuse me. This is talking about one of the people that she had alleged that she had relationships with and all this stuff. So I don't have to read all of that. I'm trying to find a part where it was talking about how she had this another opportunity to dance, or it was a part of some sort of show, a folk show or something like that. Here it is. I'll just read this. It says, with all the attention surrounding her exploits, Calamity Jane was just the kind of attraction Buffalo Bill needed to draw in crowds to his Wild West shows, and she was soon hired. However, like all the other good gigs she landed as a result of her pulp fame, the folks around her discovered that the woman had a hard time living up to her myth or even staying sober. Like, she just couldn't stay sober. So eventually he fired her. He didn't want to. Buffalo Bill did not want to fire her, but she just could not stay off the booze. And they said she would steal clothes. She had a hard life, meaning like so people would pay these magazine people. What was the word I used? The journalists. They would literally get her time, get her drunk, just so they can write the stories and listen and all of this good stuff and build this myth about her, right? But she would get so drunk, and then after all the information that she shared, she would go back to her living conditions, and they said she would live in barns, and I mean, it was awful, man. It says a barn, abandoned cabins, or a rented room, and then it says also sometimes she would even go to jail. She just stay in there, like she would commit, like crimes like stealing clothes, and then she would just sit in jail because she had the money. Even with money, they said like she would get a good living or get some good earnings, but she'll just blow it on alcohol. It's just like, wow. But so what would hold you back from your success, man? And it's good to be self-aware of what's holding you back from your success. As for myself, I am doing that right now. Here's the wisdom part. I think self-awareness is very important, and that you must, for myself, anybody, for us to get successful, we have to find out what's holding us back from success. Now, it might not be alcohol. For one instance, as an example, following the free agent lifestyle here, Coach Greg Adams, one thing he was like, man, leave the community. In essence, leave the area that you've always been in. It's like for myself, man, I grew up in H Town, South Side, South Park, and I had to leave that place, man, just to get a chance in life. I had to leave, bro. There was no chance for me there. I had to leave the community. So that was one aspect. So it doesn't have to be alcohol per se. In Jane's situation, it was alcohol. But think about that, man. What's holding you back from success, man? What's literally, you have to be self aware and think, okay, what's holding you back? And I have to think about that, my self awareness. And I'm like, okay, what's holding me back from success, man? I got to get this. One thing that was holding me back, and this is kind of modern or up to date. And I'm not going to get too deep into it, but just thinking about the economy, man. What's holding me back from success, man? And I talked about the railroad, man. And I'll give you, this is kind of going into the cash flow quadrant conversation, and then we're going to get up out of here. I love the railroad, man. It was an awesome job working for the railroad. Well, the work in itself was pretty cool. Riding the trains as a conductor, you got the engineer driving the train and seeing all the kind of stuff that we saw, the nature, the people, all kinds of craziness, man. But that was one thing that was holding me back, man, from getting to the next phase of my life, man. So I'm trying to get out of the E quadrant here. Well, I am out of the E quadrant right now. So I was in the E quadrant with the the railroad, and I could not get success, or meaning I could not gain wealth. I want to have wealth. I want to be wealthy. I want success. I want this. And for me, I had to be self-aware that being in the E quadrant or an employee, I would never be wealthy. So I had to come to my senses and make the tough decision. And life kind of forced me into the decision as well, with this economy. And just a few minutes, we'll talk about the economy. It's as they call it, the K-shaped economy. If you can imagine the K-shape, the upper branch, the rich are getting wealthy, and the lower branch of the K represents the poor who are getting poorer. And I just made it a conscious decision, the best decision that I could make, and say, you know what? I have to give this a try. I have to give myself more credit. I have to be confident in the decision to move forward. And so now I'm heading into the S quadrant, so self-employed, before I can make a business and eventually get to the business title in terms of employing people and stuff like that. But that was one thing that was holding me back, man, being in the E quadrant, being an employee, man, because I'm like, yo, I want to be wealthy. I really, really want to be wealthy. You know, with this economy, man, it's either you gonna be wealthy or not, man. It's gonna be you're gonna be rich or not, man. That's how it is right now. Inflation is going higher, 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 and higher. And then on top of that, we could possibly possibly be seeing a war with Iran. So I'm like, man, so that's going to spike things up even more. Then I hear about the Fed doing their thing. So I'm just trying to make the conscious decision to say to myself, be self-aware, like, yo, what's holding you back from success? And so I'm learning more and more and more about some of the things that I need to do. And I have to be proactive rather than reactive in these economic times that we are seeing. So that's one thing that I'm becoming self-aware. Like, okay, I have to be proactive rather than reactive to these circumstances. And I would love to get more into it, but I'm not a financial advisor, and, and I want to talk about bad girls too. So, and here's another reason, and then we'll end it right here. I wanted to talk. I like this book, man. There's more books that I want to talk about, but I like to hear the stories of women and the things, that obstacles that they're going through, and all of that good stuff. And I like that, man. So hopefully YouTube doesn't censor me this time. I think this is a mellow conversation, nothing crazy. And I love the chapter that we discussed today. So, all right, man, I'm going to get out of here, man. I appreciate everybody once again for checking out the live, or if you're on the replay, I really appreciate that. Please hit the like button, send me some comments, and subscribe, baby. I really appreciate that. As always, peace in these economic times, tough times that we are facing. Please be kind to yourself.
Just let me eat you one time. You gonna sleep for 3 days, my baby. I'm gonna make you cry.
How you gonna show us?
Ay, ay, ay.
And I'm kinky, nasty as I wanna be. Suck toes, lick scalp, eat ass. What? I eat ass like a crab. Let's get all that out.